Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Commentary is Magic series Know Your Opponent. I am, as always, Grandpaws.
I am Emperor Bugle.
Big Cheese.
And Aracat, known to the state of California to cause cancer.
I've seen the sign in our store window. I wondered what caused that. So, today we're going to be picking off where we left off a few weeks ago. Our first video in this series focused on how to play against aggro, and this time we're going to talk about everyone's favorite combo. But suddenly
Yay,
I'm very
combo.
thirsty.
Yay, combo.
I'm very thirsty, just very, very salty all of a sudden. I'm not sure why. Oh well. Combo. There are a few of us here who might know something about combo.
Now,
Bugle?
Hey,
Why do you think I know anything about combo?
I don't know, I just kind of assumed.
Well, I might know a thing or two.
Well,
So-
share your wisdom.
Okay, as you may recall from our brief explanation of the major archetypes, combo decks focus on non-traditional forms of scoring. And there are basically two major subtypes of combo. The ones that try and engineer a specific situation that they can repeat turn after turn that will eventually win, such as, pile, or the ones that try and have one massive turn that, by the end of it, will have granted the combo player the ability to go from 0 to, what number do we want? Maybe 15? Yeah, maybe 20,000. One of those two numbers. Because of this, combo decks tend to be built in a pretty different way from all other decks, because they're one-trick ponies. They want to get out this one specific interaction, they want it as soon as possible, and they want to abuse the heck out of it. This means almost every card in the deck should be dedicated towards the combo in question, finding the combo, or stopping the opponent from interfering with their combo. The combo in question is frequently referred to as the combo engine, and it is what allows combo decks to do all those nasty things that people don't like. Engines come in a variety of forms, but ultimately, they try and do one simple thing: provide you with loads of cards, AT, or both. And it's by accumulating these ridiculous quantities of resources that they ultimately win the game. Frequently, this is done by recurring cards, be it shuffling your discard back into your deck and then drawing it again, or simply pulling cards from your discard directly. Never, ever assume that a card in a combo player's discard pile won't be seen again, because it probably will, unless you banish it. But that's not enough. There's another very important aspect of combo decks, namely the win condition. It's one thing to be able to accumulate infinite AT in cards. It's a very different thing to turn that into points, after all. Typically, a win condition is somewhere in the vicinity of 1 to 6 cards that have some unique interaction that, when used together or in conjunction with the rest of the combo engine, allow you to score substantially more points than you would be able to normally. Whether it's absurd numbers like 8, or, that whole 15 that we talked about before. And, well, that's basically what a combo deck is, I guess. I'm not really an expert on combo or anything, so, you know who is? Our very own Professor Aracat, who will give you a brief history of combo.
well, we'll see about brief, but anyway. A long time ago, the developers saw fit to print Changeling Infiltrator, which shuffles discard piles back into the draw deck. Shortly afterwards, a bunch of horrible people let some of us introduce ourselves. Hello!
hey.
Who, what, how?
Came up with the first infinite combo deck, called One Pace. And lo, there was much wailing and gnashing of teeth as people kept finding new engines and building some of the most dreaded decks in the history of the game around them. Speaking of which, let's talk about some. Naturally enough, we'll start with the original, called One Pace. This would repeatedly play showdowns involving Globetrotter, who effectively says at the end of the face-off and draw 2 cards. Playing a showdown, by the way, costs 0 AT. So, pay 0, draw 2? Okay. With those draws, you'd find more showdowns to play, which draws more cards, which, well, you get the idea. With Heart's Desires to keep you in the black AT-wise, you'd eventually win enough Fashion Weeks to get to 15 points. A later derivative called One Shot had a new trick, the selfie loop, which completely cut the opponent out of the equation and let you play solitaire for 20 minutes straight to get to 15 points instead of messing around with Fashion Weeks and doing face-offs. And then Globetrotter was banned.
Aww.
Yay.
You're welcome. Next up, Dragon Express. Here you trivially... Yeah, shudders. Shudders. Here, you trivially draw your entire deck on turn 3 or 4 using the start side of Spike, the Brave and Glorious, and Magical Mailbox. Together, they effectively say, when you play a card, draw 2 cards. You play a bunch of Breezies, which are 0-cost friends, and convert draws into AT using Princess Luna Setting Moon. Then play one-sided mass showdowns involving Rarity Breezyified to get to 15 points. And then Magical Mailbox is banned.
Yay.
I miss Spike so much.
Spike was never good. It was all about the mailbox. Continuing, we have Screw Shot, or another variant known as the Toronto build or element of combo. Similar to One Pace, but instead of relying on Globetrotter to rely its deck, a Twilight Sparkle element of magic reduces the cost of all events by 1 AT. Most draw cards only cost 1 AT, which means that those are now all free. You'd play a draw card, draw some cards to get more draw cards to... Hey, this sounds familiar, doesn't it? Twilight also lets In Your Dreams, which, by the way, itself is now free, gain you an AT the vast majority of the time you play it. And then Twilight Sparkle Element of Magic was banned.
Aww.
Yay.
She knew exactly what she was doing wrong. In fact, she did it twice. Next up, we've got One Step. In the Equestrian Odysseys block, token friends became a thing. More specifically, Earth Pony tokens, and later a way to generate large numbers of them. Tall Tale is an 8-cost card from Crystal Games that gets cheaper, and eventually free, to play when enough Earth Ponies are involved. Needless to say, Pinny Lane really likes this guy, and combined with Applejack Apple Vendor and Trenderhoof Travel Writer, you can easily generate large amounts of AT. This one's actually still legal, but control tools are now good enough to disrupt it fairly consistently.
Aww.
Yay!
Here we've got Infinite Dreams as a representative of a similar family of decks. Here you'll seek out I Need Answers, play mass quantities of friends to it, then dismiss them with the problem's ability to get infinite AT. Some versions use Hoity-Toity to play Breezies from discard, and an accomplice, such as Rutherford or Discord Party Clasher, to temporarily remove his abilities so that the Breezies won't get banished when the problem's ability is used on them. Other decks, such as Mission Impossible, manufacture transfinite quantities of token friends to feed to I Need Answers for the same effect. And then I Need Answers got banned.
Aww.
Yay.
Twilight did nothing wrong.
And finally, on top of the pile is Pile. There's 2 key cards here. Pile of Presents, which effectively says you gain a point for every card your opponent draws during their main phase past the 3rd. And DJ Pwn 3, every pony is shuffling, which effectively says your opponent draws 4 cards at the start of their main phase. It actually says something else, but for the purposes of this deck, that's what it says. The interaction and win condition here should be pretty obvious. Play a pile, get many copies of vinyl into play, pass turn, and grin at your opponent. The best part about this, it's not banned.
Yay!
Yay?
Everybody loves Pile. There's one other thing, which is just an engine rather than an entire deck. The interaction known as Fancy Chord or Disco Pants. As printed, Discord Party Clasher and Fancy Pants Respected Aristocrat could interact to create a trivial infinite draw engine. This engine was printed after the ban list, spotted pretty fast, and problematic enough that nobody put serious effort into it because it was obviously going to be addressed. And then both cards got power level errata.
Aww.
That quick review should be enough to give you an idea what sort of things typically happen when combo's doing its thing. There are some common themes, which means there are weaknesses to exploit, and I'll turn it over to Grandpaws to discuss those in depth.
Weaknesses of combo. There are none. Just concede.
Yep.
And that concludes our podcast on playing against combo. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
See you next week, every pony.
I think you missed 1, maybe 2.
All right.
Wait,
all right,
what?
Fine. We'll be serious. In all honesty, most combo decks are going to display at least one of 3 major weaknesses. Either a slow speed to assemble the combo engine, reliance on a not-in-play zone such as hand or discard pile, or requiring absolutely essential pieces with few, if any, substitutes. And it's very important early on in a match to attempt to identify the one or multiple weaknesses your opponent's combo deck might have. A good indicator of this can be their main. Generally speaking, if you suspect your opponent to be running a combo deck and you see DJ Pwn 3 Party Starter as their main, it's a pretty safe assumption that they'll be trying to take advantage of the Penny Hooves engine, which tells you that discard pile disruptions such as Magical Misfire can definitely slow things down. Mains like Applejack Apple Vendor can alert you to them digging for a specific or set of specific friends, and the sooner you can identify those cards and prevent them from being played or sticking around, such as through targeted removal or Octavia Harsh Judge, the better off you'll be. Even Lyra occasionally can see Fringe play as a one-turn kill combo main and would hate to go up against a Nightmare Moon Deep Darkness. The fact that MLP is played with single-game matches and no sideboards, however, creates an interesting situation where, regardless of what deck you're planning on playing, you'll want to reserve a few select card slots for utility cards that can handle a variety of situations. Key things here would be resource removal, which many new players still struggle with including, hand disruption, friend frightening or removal, etc. But there's another tactic that many players often overlook to get around the cost of having to take up a card slot in your draw deck, and that's using disruptive problems so you don't have to sacrifice those valuable draw deck slots. Cards like Equalist Propaganda or Plunder Seeds and Ponyville are effectively free to play if you can get them out with a problem face-off, and they can cause a very unexpected and very noticeable change in momentum, especially against combo decks. That being said, each different archetype, aggro, combo, control, and farming, are still going to use different tactics to try to one-up combo. Let's move to the first one. Ara, what is aggro going to do against combo?
Well, the pure aggro answer, it's pretty simple. Hope you can go fast enough to win before they go off. And that's about it. However, as I said last time, good aggro decks will normally have some control tools. Use whatever you can to delay them going off, but accept that they'll probably go off and plan for it. Save some immediates or hasty friends and the AT to use them, then hope that the disruption is enough to cause them to fizzle or give you that one turn that you need to close the game. Aggro honestly doesn't have a whole lot of options here, but do what you can. Next up, Cheese has some thoughts on the mirror match.
Combo versus combo. Yeah, it could be pretty fun if you enjoy two people playing solitaire. Combo versus combo is really all about who can successfully go off first. This requires you to deeply understand your own deck so that you know exactly how many resources, both AT and cards in hand, you need to be able to combo off. You must also deeply understand your opponent's deck so that you know which cards to target for disruption and when they're going to go off. Because sometimes you may not be sure if you can go off, but if you're pretty sure your opponent can go off next turn, you just have to take the risk. And you need to know when it's safe to do that. Your next thing is pretty much what all decks are going to want to do against combo, which is have disruption. Know which cards in your opponent's deck they need so that you can target them and get rid of them. You also need to come prepared to do that, such as Destiny Drain.
Just as a concrete example of this, Screwshot packs a singleton copy of Destiny Drain, which was put there at my insistence to deal with opposing combo. And I stand by that decision because that single-handedly won several games for me.
I never used it, but I was kind of glad it was there.
Just for the peace of mind, if nothing else.
I never ended up getting matched up against anybody else running combo, other than Bugle, but the last thing you're going to need in combo versus combo is some luck. Just hope you get better draws. Next up, let's see what Bugle has to say about control.
Control has historically, honestly, had the worst kind of matchups against combo. It's typically too slow, and in the past, it just didn't have enough ways to disrupt the opponent's combo. And allowing the opponent to amass huge amounts of AT is usually a good way to lose to the combo deck. This has gotten a lot better with the rise of so many immediate cards, but unless they directly and immediately impact the core piece of the combo, this just won't help. And the control player is still on a relatively short clock, even if you do have the immediates. The control player should prioritize hand disruption first, and then try and find cards that can disrupt the combo while it's going on. Typically removal of some sort. And from there, you better start scoring somehow. While it'll still be a larger clock than the combo player is typically used to, it's still a clock. You'll likely be prioritizing using your AT on drawing cards to find answers to the combo player's schemes, or, actually holding on to that AT to stop their schemes once you have the cards you need. You gotta keep plenty at hand, because typically one card is not enough to stop a combo player who is saving up a lot of AT, but once you have enough, hopefully you can stop them. If you're really, really lucky, you'll be able to banish their entire win condition, at which point you've probably already won. This is not likely to happen, especially against the more crafty combo players, but, be on the lookout for opportunities. From there, I suppose we've only got one archetype left. Take it away, Grandpaws, with farming.
So very similar to aggro, farming is going to try to accelerate itself against combo through rapid-fire troublemaker face-offs to a large point lead, and hopefully be able to close out the game early despite the opposing combo player now gaining more AT each turn as a result of your staggered point scoring. This is actually a weakness of farming compared to aggro, as many blue or blue-white decks are capable of closing out the game in 1 or 2 burst turns of 7 or 8 points each if they have to, while most farming decks are going to be limited to 5 or 6 points a turn maximum just due to the built-in limit on how many troublemakers you can challenge in a single turn. There are several tools that are included in most farming decks, whether they are blue or orange, which are the 2 primary colors, that can be useful against combo. For example, the Applejack farming deck, which was popularized during High Magic, had Applejack's Epiphany, which could be played as an effective immediate speed resource removal, giving it a slightly better matchup against the pile of presence decks that were very popular just a few months ago. Blue, of course, has access to Prince Rutherford, and if any deck is going to be relying on using friends to combo off, having that friend frightened and needing to use an extra 2 AT is not something they want to see. Apart from that, farming needs to try to use the most disruptive villains they can without necessarily putting themselves behind. Sometimes this means making a play that might not seem optimal. Some farming decks still choose to run Nightmare Moon from Premier, and there's value in this. Nightmare Moon can very, very easily disrupt an opponent who's had several turns to set up their hands. The key thing here is to know which troublemakers to play, when to play them, and really which deck you're going to be up against so you can identify what the primary method of disruption is going to be. Then keep at it. Now let's take a look at cards in different colors that can help a variety of decks play against combo, starting with blue. Arcat, what have we got?
Well, we'll start out with somebody who's loves smashing things. That's right, it's Rutherford. You're going to see this guy a lot. He scares something important at a critical time. You need to understand the operation of the particular combo you're up against to know the best time to drop him, then hope they don't have the AT to recover. Next up, we've got Rainbow Dash on Even Ground, who removes their ability to bank from turn to turn. Being unable to bank may force them to play out vulnerable combo pieces over several turns, or better yet, waste resources trying to kick Dash out of their party. Then we've got Night Glider Overpowering. Your opponent can't go off if you've already won, and Night Glider really likes helping you do that. Finally, we have a multicolor card, which is Wonderbolt Stadium. This is lovely acceleration, and more AT equals going faster. See Night Glider. On the subject of orange, over to Grandpaws to talk about some other orange things that'll help you out.
Applejack's Epiphany, I believe, was previously mentioned. It's one of the few sources of resource dismissal at immediate speed outside of yellow or purple. And it's one of those tools that many orange decks are going to include automatically because modal cards are good, and Applejack's Epiphany is one of those that is still good to this day. Being able to dismiss an opponent's pile of presence at the end of your troublemaker phase, or rather during a face-off during your troublemaker phase, can stop them from going off for another turn. Iron Will is a great friend that can shut off friends' abilities. This is especially key if they needed to play to a particular problem. Dream Seized can also be very useful in disrupting key cards that are being kept in hand. Many times most combo decks are going to choose to reveal as little information as possible and to avoid going off until the absolute last possible moment, especially if they are one-turn kill combo decks. As a result, many of their pieces are going to be held in hand, and as the turns go on, you can almost be certain that just about anything in their hand is going to be valuable, so hand disruption can be quite strong. Finally, Defensive Position provides a multicolor option for slowing down combo decks in a non-intuitive way. There are many friends that can be just utterly detrimental and destructive to a combo going off. Octavia Harsh Judge, Howie Zodal, you name it. And many times combo decks are going to be packing friend dismissal or removal in some shape or form in order to make sure that they can get around these obstacles. Defensive Position is a card that you can play to your home that might force a combo player to use non-efficient resource removal, such as Seabreeze's Flower, which costs valuable AT and allows your friend to stick around for just a little bit longer. That might be enough for you to close out the game. Moving on, let's talk about Combo's favorite color, pink.
Pink. Despite being probably the best color for Combo, pink also has some of the better answers to Combo, believe it or not, mostly because, well, it's got immediate dismissal, like a Food Fight. Food Fight being cheap at only 2 action tokens and hitting a lot of key combo cards right now, considering most combo decks at the moment seem to be favoring things that have 3 power, gives you, well, it's a nice surprise, let's put it that way. Another more counterintuitive way pink has of mucking with combo is Sips and Snails Problem Solvers. The problem replacement from Sips and Snails can help because some combo decks require a specific problem, or you can use this offensively to try and get your own problem to try and muck up their hand. Fruit Bat Roundup is still very relevant, people. Don't forget about it. Then, of course, there's some of you might hesitate to think of this as an answer to combo, but it is. It's DJ Pawn 3 Every Pony Shufflin'. Yeah, I know. You kind of think of that as a combo card, but still, the hand disruption that she provides can actually muck with other combo players as well. And this is actually a key component of the pile versus pile mirror match. And then, of course, sometimes you need to bring out the heavy guns. Just banish everything. Party of 1. Everything's gone. This actually might not seem like the most intuitive way of dealing with combo, since combo frequently doesn't play all that much, but it gets rid of a Doctor Who's if they've got that. If they happen to have any key combo pieces in play, you get rid of those. And, this is banishing, so those things are gone. If they were unfortunate enough to have everything that construes their win condition in play there, good game. How about purple, Cheese? How about purple?
How about that, purple?
Everything in purple is great against combo. Specifically, let's talk about the great card, Nap Cakes. 1 AT, put from a 2 or less power on top of your deck. And the important thing here is that it's at immediate speed. Combo hates cards with immediate speed, because when you're in your combo, you basically want to be able to ignore your opponent. And here, it's like you're going to play down a friend that's critical to your combo engine, and it's just going to go on top of your deck. So you got to pay 1 to draw it to get it back, and then pay to play it again. So that's a huge hit to your AT. Next card is Destiny Drain. Now this is a card where you have to understand your opponent's deck. If you don't understand it, then you're going to hit the wrong thing, and your opponent's not even going to care. And this card is actually a reason why quite a few combo decks are designed around having multiple ways to do a specific thing, so that if one of those gets Destiny Drained, they can still go off. However, I do not know of a single combo deck which doesn't have a one critical card that without it, they can still win. There are several combo decks now that care a lot about resources in play. Some examples here would be One Step, which cares about having the resources in play to boost up power of its friends, and Pile, which cares about pile. Now, a great card to get rid of them, Rest in Pieces. 3 AT to banish all of your opponent's resources. Combo hates this.
At immediate speed to boot.
Yeah, at immediate speed.
This kills the combo.
It kills the combo.
It does. I have taken it to the face several times. The next card we've got is a new card in Marks and Time, which when I first read this, I was like, wow, everybody's going to run this, and I'm going to hate it. Magical Misfire. Banish an opponent's discard pile. Just gone. All those cards in their discard pile your opponent wanted to recur, well, they're gone now. And those cards they wanted to shuffle back into their deck, not there anymore.
Well,
Hooves is gone, everybody's gone.
And as icing on the cake, it even replaces itself in your hand.
Yes, indeed, it draws another card. It's amazing, all for 1 AT.
I feel like Billy Mays invented this card.
but I don't get a 2-for-1 deal out of it.
You might.
So purple has quite a bit more, but let's move on to white.
White, very much like purple, has several means of removing key pieces of combo decks entirely from the game. Usually this is done through banishing effects, and cleaning up is probably one of the best options for this. Cleaning up is an immediate speed event. Are we seeing a trend here with immediate speed? that allows you to banish a card from a discard pile and then return a card from your discard pile to your hand. This can either be useful in thinning your own discard pile if you're planning on shuffling it back in, or far more useful is removing one of the key pieces your opponent might have sitting in their discard pile. Naming a Dr. Hooves can effectively neuter the Penny Hooves engine to the point where it's not even useful. Coming up again in white, just like last week, we have Octavia Harsh Judge, who does, well, really whatever you want her to do. This, very much like Destiny Drain, requires you to know your opponent's deck, or to at least be able to predict it. If you can see trends, if you keep up with the meta online, you might have an idea of what sort of decks are out there or what sort of engines are utilizing which types of cards. And playing an Octavia Harsh Judge early on, or at a time you feel is appropriate to prevent the playing of that key card, can definitely make combo go digging for pieces they'd rather not see, like expensive Dismissal. Wake Up Call is a card that is a bit more limited in terms of its play because it really only sees play in decks running white as a main color. The introduction of Prim Hemline in High Magic did make this a little bit easier, but still, that 4 requirement is difficult to get to. Nonetheless, there are many key events that combo decks are going to rely on. Some of these might be something as simple as Juggling Routine to get a discard pile back in the deck. Others might be things like multi-face-offs with cards that are using multiple copies of Rarity Breezyfied, and being able to flat-out cancel those events, prevent them from taking any effect whatsoever, apart from your opponent having to spend AP to cost them, can be very, very disruptive.
Wake-up calling fixers can also be extremely effective at the start of a combo.
That's a good point, Arakat. Wake Up Call is a little tricky to play because you do have to do it proactively rather than reactively. And this means your opponent, if they are intelligent or can read, will most likely be choosing to dismiss your resource in advance, or at least force you to burn Wake Up Call on a non-essential event. Finally, for multicolored cards in white, also in the same color combination as pink for Bugle, we have Rarity Soprano. Immediate speed, hand disruption. I'm trying to think of 4 words that are more terrifying to combo than this. Maybe immediate speed discard banishment, but that's probably it. And what's worse is Rarity Soprano can actually be used multiple times, unlike events that, unless you have a form of recursion, are going to be sitting in your discard pile. Most decks running Rarity Soprano will also be running several copies of Singing Barrel, and since Rarity is a ponytone, you can get her right back. She even potentially fixes your own hand if you're drawing into dead cards. Let's move right along to Critter's favorite color, yellow. Bugle?
Yellow has, well, it's got Bewitched Beavers. Probably Yellow's claim to fame against that specific combo deck that's been terrorizing the meta right now.
Pile?
1 AT, immediate speed, dismiss a resource. You can't get any more simple than that. And, well, that can leave a certain deck that I might have alluded to before feeling kind of sad.
Pile.
One pace?
Especially if you can follow it up with removal. Remember that party of 1 I mentioned before? This is the time to play that. Then we've got Philomena, Up in Smoke, who is not only just an AT-efficient critter to help accelerate Yellow's plans, but, also a way to make combo players unable to effectively bank AT. It's not nearly as effective as that certain nameless blue mare who does something very similar, but
Jerk.
it can be effective. It truly can be effective. They'll probably turn all of that action tokens into cards, or if you're lucky, they'll try to go off early and fail. Then, of course, there is every single person's, well, some people's favorite Grey Pegasus, who originally debuted as a yellow main who did what again? She said, no combo. No. Of course, the trick is you actually have to flip her, but once you have, there is not a combo deck out there who will have a chance.
Combo totally doesn't want to play multiple cards in the same turn. Just
No.
totally.
Nope. And then there's one of my personal favorite cards, Bedtime. Why Bedtime? Well, because there's this certain deck out there that I might have mentioned before that returns cards to hand, and Bedtime says if a card is put into its owner's hand, it's banished instead. Now that instead part is pretty important because it's a replacement modifier. And in the case of a cost, like that certain friend has, it can't be paid. And if you can't pay the cost, you can't do the effect. And if you can't do the effect, well, you're not getting any points. So, bedtime.
What he's trying to say here is that if you have a bedtime out, your opponent just straight up can't use DJ Pawn 3 shuffling.
Correct. Not at all. Well,
Not even a little.
Unless they blow up the bedtime. But who would do that? That's it for the colors. Let's move on to colorless.
All right, colorless stuff. Let's start off with an old baddie. It's Nightmare Moon, the villain from Premiere. That's right, it's 7 sets old and still relevant. This little girl dumps their hand, then continues to chip away at it. This is potentially game-wrecking for both players if the right things get discarded. This is especially effective if you can follow it up with a Destiny Drain on a key card, or just magical misfire their entire discard pile away. Nightmare Moon is pretty good at this, and she's actually got a second card here, Nightmare Moon Deep Darkness. This prevents card draw, and must be removed for combo relying on draws to work. Pile, incidentally, is ineffective at scoring points if you can only draw one card, and a lot of other combo decks won't be able to dig for pieces. Unfortunately, this doesn't work against Apple Vendor combo, and tend to Rex your hand against Pile because after they're done, you've got at most one card. So earlier, we had a combo card, namely Shuffle, show up as an anti-combo card, and here we're going to see the same thing again with a card out of the same deck. It's Pile of Presents. This essentially limits how much your opponent can draw during their main phase before giving you the win for free. Do note that they can still draw as long as it doesn't give you that 15 point, or draw outside of their main phase. Finally, we've got a problem, which is Equalist Propaganda. This just prevents massive point gains in one turn. Essentially, this card acts as a pass-fail gate for whether or not they brought an answer to it, since they can generally deal with a card that says you can't gain points at their leisure. That about covers it for the colors or lack thereof.
There's a lot of information here that you've all had to take in. Some of you may already be very familiar with how to play against combo because you have that one or two player in your group that really, really love combo and find it hilarious and love playing it. These are truly the worst people in the world, and they should all be desperately, desperately ashamed of themselves.
I apologize for nothing. I apologize for nothing.
I'm kind of sorry.
Cheese isn't sorry.
Not even a little. And that's okay. Combo, at the end of the day, is just another archetype. There are strengths, there are weaknesses. But combo, more than any other archetype, has a tendency to evoke negative emotions and feelings surrounding it. So, simply because I'm curious, I'd like to hear what each of us here have to say about combo and its existence or presence or dominance in this game, and whether or not we think that's healthy long term. Let's start with Bugle.
Oh, geez, putting me on the spot, aren't we? Well, honestly, those of you who know me know I got my start in My Little Pony with combo. I've played it in other games as well, and I am ultimately a combo player. There is definitely a place for combo. It is just, not at the kitchen table. It's honestly not even for locals. It's for the tier 2 and the tier 3 environments. And yes, it can be incredibly unfun to play against, but control can be too. And honestly, lately I've been hearing a lot more complaints against farming than I have against combo, believe it or not. Whether or not that's just because combo has kind of fallen out of vogue, or because farming is better, or whatever. That's the place I've been in lately. And yeah, it has its place. It's just a competitive place, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I guess that's my answer.
How about Aura? What do you think?
Essentially, my thoughts on this are that although combo may not be the most loved thing, it is a valid or at least legal way to answer the question, how do I win this event? It may not always do that, but it certainly gives you a pretty good shot, at least historically speaking. The fact that the game supports the mechanics to allow it to exist implies that it's a thing that the devs want to exist.
How do you think that corresponds with the numerous banned cards that we've seen for combo?
Well, they don't necessarily want it to exist that much. There is something to getting rid of interactions that are just terrible and problematic and unfun to deal with. The ban list doesn't just address combo cards, it addresses things that aren't fun to deal with. As a player playing against it, or in some cases, as a tournament organizer having to deal with games consistently going to time. So there is a place for it. There's not a place for infinites as everyone has come to fear, at least maybe not at this point. There's enough control tools in the game that it's not exactly going to work every time. So I think it's earned its place amongst the archetypes at this point.
Cheese, he who knows no shame, what do you think?
So, personally, I love combo. It is thoroughly fun to play. It's also incredibly fun to find and tune the engines that we have. As for the game in general, I think that healthy combo is healthy. And by healthy combo, I really mean things that aren't Dragon Express. If you just win too quickly, where it's just like I win, that's not good for the game. And it's fun a few times, but it's not that fun over and over again.
It really is terrible.
As far as the cards we've seen banned, they have really taken out combo decks which are just a little bit too strong.
Okay.
Making all your cards free, all your events free, basically, with EOM was just a bit excessive.
Just a little bit?
Drawing your entire deck
a bit.
turn 3 with Magical Mailbox, just a bit excessive.
Yeah, that one was just crazy. I do realize that some people really have disliked combo, but I feel that a lot of the dislike towards the non-interactiveness can apply equally well to control, or sometimes even aggro. Like, I couldn't interact because you won by turn 4, and my deck just couldn't get ready that fast.
Several of the players at my locals actually feel that way about aggro.
Yeah, and so not everyone is going to like playing against every deck, and not every single game you play is going to be fun. Now, hopefully, most of them are. However, I'm not going to run combo at locals other than to just show people, just because it's like, hey, look at this combo I found. They're like, oh, cool. But I'm not going to just play it over and over again.
I'm going to echo most of your sentiments here. I feel like combo, as Bugle, Ara, and Cheese have said, is, at this point in time, just another archetype. Interplay knows what they want as far as the power level for the game, and when something exceeds that, they're not afraid to make a ban as long as that ban is appropriate. There are still combo decks that are playable even now that may end up showing up at Gen Con 2016 here in just a month or so. And that's okay. Like Cheese said, there are players who don't like playing against a variety of different archetypes. Some find aggro to be non-interactive. Others find the control grind or the wall that they have to overcome just too much of a hurdle and want to just pack it in early. That being said, I think that combo now is probably healthier than it has been, not just due to the removal of some of the problematic cards like Magical Mailbox or Element of Magic, but also due to the inclusion of potential answers. Cards like Magical Misfire, cards like Rainbow Dash on Even Ground, cards like Equalist Propaganda. These are tools that can be used in a variety of different circumstances, and one of those circumstances is shutting down combo. The key is just to know what you're up against. Meta knowledge is something we haven't really talked about here very much, and we may talk about it in the future once this series is done. But knowing your opponent, and knowing what you can expect your opponent to be running, can really grant you an edge no matter what you're up against. Speaking of which, for our next video in this series, I believe we will be discussing how to play against Control, another archetype that generates mixed feelings, and my personal favorite. Until then, I think this will wrap up our look at how to play against combo. Thank you to everyone for joining us, and of course, as always, if you like this content and would like to see more of it, you may feel free to donate to us through our PayPal link on our Twitch channel. Those of you who like watching our live streams and commentary of competitive events may be excited to see us at some upcoming events, including, if I'm not mistaken, BronyCon just this next weekend.
Yep.
Yep. Several of us were going to be there.
Is it just RNI?
No, Bugle's showing up too.
Oh, no,
Oh.
I'm going, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I guess I'll have to stay here on the West Coast and commentate. With that, I think we're going to wrap this video up. So, as always, I am Grandpaws.
I am Emperor Bugle.
Big cheese?
And the hugest Johnny, Aracat.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Good night.